declared that we had to train as strenuously as everyone else. Jinx and I decided that if we had to work out, we were going to go all in and hand out more bruises than we took. Anne stood from checking Jinx. Jinx took a hard kick that sent her flying across the room, and I always get more aggressive when I feel them getting hurt. Well, Jinx especially, but any of the dogs, really. Anne looked down at her feet for a moment, then back at Gabrielle. If the dogs get hurt, well, all bets are off, she finished ferociously. Excuse me, Lady Gabrielle. While Anne had been talking, Gabrielle had been peripherally aware of the Yawlen approaching, and Jinx positioning herself between Anne and the alien. Gabrielle turned to Grison. Yes? Bethany Ann had given her the task of recruiting Grison. The Yawlen was rumored to have contact with ex-military personnel on Yawl, and Bethany Ann hoped Gabrielle could persuade Grison to convince those people to join the Etheric Empire's military. Gabrielle had been giving the Yawlen a look at some of the training facilities when they had come upon Anne and Jinx's session. The animal, it's related to the Empress companion? Grison asked. No way! I have human parents, Anne exclaimed. Grison looked confused when the human girl answered, and he pointed to Jinx. I meant... Anne cut him off. You have 4 legs. Does that make you a lesser being? Grison clenched his mandibles and bit back the instinctive response that 4 legs made him higher on the social scale. The Empress had decreed that all Yawlens were equal, regardless of the number of their legs. I apologize. I might have been guilty of grictoplets. Of gricta what? Anne was completely confused, and she looked at Gabrielle for clarification. Gabrielle quickly put the clues together. He's using a word our implants don't understand, so we're hearing it in his native language. Grison's translator allowed him to comprehend the conversation between the humans. He tried again, using different words, hoping the human devices could translate these. Guilty of making assumptions? Anne sighed. Sorry. It just really cranks me up when people define Jinx as an animal, as if she's not a person. I think it's the lack of hands that does it, Jinx chuffed. Wait, Grison held up his hands in supplication. What did you say? Anne took a deep breath, releasing some of her anger as she exhaled. What part? After sorry. Oh, just something random, Anne replied. Probably why your implant didn't translate it. Grison reached to his left ear and removed a small device. Normal Yawlens don't have implants. We use a translation device, he explained, then replaced it. He looked carefully at Anne. Why does your companion make those noises? Noises? Anne asked. Oh, she said she thought that not having hands is why others consider her less than a person. Grison clashed his mandibles in agitation. She said all that? He asked, looking at Gabrielle as if the older human would give her a different answer. Gabrielle smiled at Anne's disgusted look. The Empire's latest implants translate the canine's sounds into that person's default language. Grison looked at Jinx. And you can understand me? Jinx chuffed again, and Anne translated. Yes, I have an implant that translates every language in the Empire's database. I still have issues with some English words, so I don't always understand what people are saying. They watched as Gabrielle led the Yawlen VIP away. Jinx asked Anne, How would I talk with people who don't have Empire implants? Anne knelt and put an arm over her friend's shoulders as she tried to come up with an option. If I remember correctly, Bethany Ann captured the Yawlens back in Earth's space. To communicate, Yawlens wore a harness with a speaker that translated and broadcast to the humans. Why don't we see if we can get something like that made for you? That sounds like a workable option, Jinx agreed. But the designer had better make it pretty. Anne put down some fresh water for Jinx before she headed for her shower. As she let the hot water wash over her and soothe her remaining aches, her mind wandered over the events of the last few months. She had gone from living at home with her parents to living with her best friend and companion, Jinx. She'd been failing in